Well, hello everyone. Welcome to week 3 of season 3 of the Reddit League. I'm Zotomo and I'm joined by my co-host Calamity. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, and we have the great honor to have Mr. Blue as our guest today, promoted from Division 2 last season, and really showing us some stuff here in Division 1 so far. How are you doing, Mr. Blue?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me again. So far, so good indeed in the season, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if your luck continues. Yeah, so we won't waste your time. Let's jump right into those Division 1 results. Yeah, Mr. Blue, a perfect game from you here in Belgium. You are from a neighboring country, so maybe a little home field advantage, so to
I
speak.
would say so, yes, I would say definitely because I've been there a lot of times in my youth. So I've quite a knowledge of the also the smaller cities, which then or the towns in this case that is definitely helpful in that country. Um, so yeah, I did. I was happy with the 25K, but as you can see, I was not the only one in this
Yes.
seat at least. I did also a 25K the second and the third division actually, so that was quite of a pressure for me to make it also in this division. But then indeed, like as you can see, a lot of people did. So I think maybe the seat was a little bit too easy for the Division One in this situation.
Yeah, five
Because even
25Ks.
Radu actually lost here with 20,000 points, but he also had like 4 rounds where he did have a 5K anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, anything stand out to you here, Calamity?
Yeah, this is this is what you have. What happens when you give Division One an easy seed? It might be it's sort of in contention with last season's Sweden seed for the easiest country seed Division One has ever gotten. Yeah, and as such, we got our third perfect draw in Reddit League history. We had, I think it was Teskotak Equinox in season 1, and then we had Raidman against Kevin in season 2 in Sweden. Yeah, you see there a bit Radu falling out of line here with his 20,400 points. But yeah, as Mr. Blue said, he got 4 perfect scores in the first 4 rounds. And the exact same happened to Schludi, actually, which was interesting to me because you kind of really have to try to miss the information in that 5th round. Because if you go north from the start, you immediately get street signs with Roselare on them, as well as the city exit sign. If you head south and then go east at the first intersection, you get to a city exit sign. If you go south at that intersection and continue south, you get to the main square of town, which also gives you more than enough information. And if you go west, sort of the only way that's left if you didn't take any of the previous one, there's also a street sign that says Roselare on it. So that might be missable. That's like in a side street, so you could miss it. But still, you have to be very unlucky to sort of go past all of that information.
Yeah, definitely a lot of 24,900 pluses in this one and 5 perfect games. Yeah, Mr. Blue getting that perfect game, but Kevin Croner giving you run for your money, only losing 4 points himself. So that only gets you a draw as well for that one. So yeah, points in terms of the table points, very hard to come by. In week 1, as we take a look at those, everybody moves given that seed. Equinox jumping up quite a bit to 8th place. Boska, I'll say it eventually. I'll get it one of these days. Boxa,
Yeah.
there we go. Drops down. Orpheus moves up, and Mr. Blue, you also move up into 3rd place with that. Yeah, so even with people losing and whatnot, we do get a tie. 2 ties, as well as quite a few bonus points spread out there from everybody. So, yeah, Mr. Blue, any takes on the Division 1 table after 3 weeks?
Yeah, it does feel like a little bit like Real Madrid is at the bottom of the Spanish league at the moment with Simi down there. I definitely expect him to climb up in the rankings throughout the season. But yeah, let's say that reaching the playoffs might actually become a bit hard for him right now. But yeah, it's a very strong division. I think that everybody can beat anyone at any given moment. or a draw, depending on what the situation is going to be like. But my prediction would be that the top 7 players will probably stay there. Even though Simi could still get in there, of course, and make a comeback and then kick one of them out. But yeah, that will probably be the situation from what I can see here.
Yeah, Calamity, what's really interesting to maybe point out here is the vast majority of these players have a negative score differential, which is a bit interesting.
I mean, you say the vast majority. It's 7-5, so it is the majority, but it's like not out of the ordinary. I would say you kind of expect if it's not a clear split with 6-6, then it's gonna be 5-7 some way.
Yeah, Radu's got
yeah.
a positive score, but he's out of line with everybody else, so I didn't notice
figured
that. I thought it was
was
still a
it.
negative, but
Yeah, you can see the cost that Radu and Schluter's mistake in that last round is there for them. With we've got a clear split down the middle now, 3 points separating 6th from 7th. All those perfect scores and bonus points also lead to an unusually high average points. We've got 1.8 points per game on average, which is kind of ridiculous. The next highest is Division 4B with 1.6 recurring.
Of course it is.
Yeah, the season hasn't been going well at all for almost all of last season's playoff contenders, actually, with Equinox, Magyaron, and Simi, who have a combined 5 points after 3 weeks. And Raidman's the only one who can at least keep up the pace with the 3 newcomers and the 2 promoted players. But yeah, as you'll see in a minute, next week's matches are very much sort of a top versus bottom affair. So for people like Simi or Magyaron, that may well be their last chance to keep their playoff hopes alive. As with a loss, they'd most likely be looking at a gap of up to like 10 points towards 4th place. And with the form that we've seen some of the top in so far, that seems pretty insurmountable.
Well, let's take a look at those fixtures for the coming week. Week 4, we on another world map. This might be the first time we've had a back-to-back world map.
I mean, you're kind of forgetting about Belgium there, aren't you?
Oh, never mind. Yeah. Casting videos in different orders makes me think of maps. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we had Belgium last week. Never mind. Yeah, so an AI-made world map this time. Yeah, as you said, likes of Mr. Blue, Orpheus, and Boxa taking on people in the lower half of the table here, Calamity.
Yeah, with the exception of Orpheus. But the matches that I would look at here are Simi versus RC and Orpheus versus Anago. Those are the 2 that don't play against someone from the other half of the table, with Simi and RC being in the lower half and Orpheus and Anaglu in the upper half. Simi and RC played each other in Season 1 in Kansas and were separated by only 9 points there, but not really that representative for a world map here. And yeah, Orpheus and Anaglu maybe having a bit lower stakes compared to Simi and RC, for whom this is a really important week already. But yeah, as I've mentioned last week as well, we kind of with Boxa, Mr. Blue, Giovanni, and Raidman as the favorites for the playoffs. This could be a crucial matchup sort of to decide who out of those 2 newcomers could pick up the 4th spot if one of the aforementioned 4 falters and loses out on the playoffs. And the other matches look relatively clear cut. But yeah, at the same time, it's a world map, so all of these players should be capable of getting a great score there. And as I've mentioned before, shortly, Raidman and Kevin fighting again after their perfect draw in Sweden last week, and Magyaron and Giovanni met before in France
last season.
Was that last season? Yeah, it was last season. You're right. And that ended in a win for Magyaron. Actually, no, that had to have been Season 1 because Giovanni was in Division 2 last season.
No, I was talking about the Raidman and
Kevin. Oh yeah. That was last season in Sweden.
You said last week.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Blue, you fancy your chances against Equinox here?
Well, he did really well in Belgium. He did less good in the first 2 weeks. Yeah, hopefully that will be something that I can rely on, and I hope I can pull off the win here. Other than that, I have also written down the same matches as Calamity did. I think that if Simi wants something from this season, and he didn't lose his motivation yet, then this will be the game that he might, get back into it. But against RC, that's definitely not going to be easy. And then I had also written down the Orpheus against Anarglu game, because I think this will be an interesting encounter to see whether Anarglu can take a win against the leader. I can see him do that actually.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, definitely another interesting week in Division 1 as always. Moving on to Division 2. We'll give Calamity first shot as this is your division, Calamity. Definitely good scores by neighbors of Belgium this week, Calamity. The French and the Baseman doing quite well here against their American and more international opponents for sure.
Tolenpal and Verdok got their wins as favorites there, with Belgium being their neighboring country. But not great scores for all of the neighboring country players, with Seppo putting in a relatively weak score there. But I don't know where exactly Seppo lives in Germany, so he might be on the complete other side in like either Munich or Berlin or somewhere like that, at which point he's not all that close to Belgium. But yeah, apart from Tolenpal and Verdok winning, it was a relatively surprising week, with Ice dropping some crucial points in the fight for promotion against the Baseman. The Baseman himself, I think, wasn't that happy with his score. He kind of expected a bit better, but he'll be pleased to know that it was still enough for the win. I got the win against Chicago despite a big mistake in round 1. And Guelo Wizard himself has secured his first points in Division 2 in a pretty strong matchup against Teskotak, who also gets a point for being in the top half. The real Clyde falls somewhere between expected and surprised with what little data we have of him. With Seppo having been in the bottom 4 score-wise in every week so far, a pretty mediocre performance from Clyde was enough to continue his winning run.
Mr. Blue, anything from you here on these Division 2 results?
Yeah, I think that Tolenpal here did pull off a really good win against Radox. Radox, who has been doing okay so far in this season, I guess. This is a good win for him, whereas he actually did not perform well in the second week. In Calamity's video, I remember that he was like kind of negative throughout the seed. So I guess winning him against the Chicago geographer, who is still top favorite, is actually also very pleasant for him, I suppose. Werdok is showing what he is capable of for the second week in a row right now, so good for him. And sorry to Ice Taru, but my tips didn't really help that much apparently. But I'm actually happy that the Baseman won his game here.
Yeah, very nice. Well, let's look at what this means for the table in Division 2. Tolenpal and Calamity, you guys both climb out of the lower half, so to speak, of the table. Calamity just on that border. Also movement up for the Baseman. And Real Clyde taking top spot. Ice and Chicago dropping a bit down the table with their losses. Seppo stays at the bottom. Teskotak, I don't think he has moved yet after he claimed 7th place in the first round. I think he's been there the entire time. So everybody else is moving around him, but he's staying right there with that score. But Calamity, anything from you here on the Division 2 table?
Yeah, I've just made one mistake there. I didn't actually move. I was in 6th place last week as well. So I don't know why you put those errors there.
Maybe I didn't take them off.
Yeah, that could be the case. We've got the Real Clyde now at the top of the table as the only player in the division who hasn't lost a game. He so far only had to play against 8th, 10th, and 12th. Not saying his lead is undeserved at all. He still has the highest total score, but he might get a few tougher matchups from here on out. And he'll really have to prove whether he's got what it takes to get promoted or to at least fight for promotion out of Division 2. All in all, the table is still very close. And we said it all the way back in the previous show that Division 1 might end up being the most closely matched division. And so far, it's definitely delivering upon that promise. It looks like pretty much everyone can beat everyone in this division.
Yeah, only 3 points separating 11th place from third place. So definitely very close here. Yeah, Mr. Blue, anything from you?
Yeah, I think that the real Clyde keeps surprising, or yeah, maybe not actually, because yeah, he did really well in the qualification, and if you compare that to and you see what Orpheus and Boxa and Anarglu are doing, then he might be just as good as he is showing right now. Indeed, he's played against the people lower in the rankings, but they are there also because they played against him. So I guess
Partly, yes.
that yeah. So that makes it up, I guess. Yeah, as you said, it's hard to predict who will be on the top of the spots here because it is indeed a very close competition. Yeah, I think that Seppo's total score shows here that he is in for a tough season.
Indeed. Well, let's see how they'll match up in week 4. Yeah, Calamity, you up against Redox. That should be a very interesting one. I know he's been taunting you for the first couple seasons of Reddit League as he was in a division above you, but now that you're on the same level, you get a chance to prove yourself against him in that matchup. Other than that, probably End the Basement and Tesco one of the harder ones to call here, Calamity.
Yeah, definitely. The Basement and Tesco Tech was also one game that I was looking at as probably, or at least potentially, the closest game of the ones that we've got here. Maybe Clyde against Chicago as well could also end up being very close. And my game against Radox could end up that way for sure, too. Kind of depends a bit on the seed, of course. Radox relatively... we've talked about this before. It doesn't like pinpointing too much, but yeah, it could be a very interesting game. He's not had too great of a season. He's kind of there where he was in the last 2 seasons, sort of in the relegation playoff zone, fighting against that. And yeah, either of us is gonna be very happy if either of us win.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, other than that, Ice against Blockchain should go to Ice, but we'll see about that. Verdok Seppo, again, Verdok really good generally on world maps, so it doesn't look like Seppo is going to be picking up his first points of the season here. And then we've got Tall Impala versus Guelo Wizard, which could be very interesting as well, actually, since we had Tall Impala with a very bad performance in week 2 on the other world map, and Guelo Wizard has been doing relatively well on them too and had a good last week as well, so could see a surprise there potentially.
Yeah, Mr. Blue.
Yeah, I cannot wait for Radox to beat Calamity here. For all the banter that is going towards him all the time. Yeah, I think that he is really, really motivated to beat you here, and yeah, we might see that happening. Then I also think that the real Clyde against Chicago Geographer will be a very interesting game on an AI world map. So I'm looking forward to see what is happening there, actually.
Yeah, Radox definitely couldn't have asked for a better week to go up against you, Calamity. World maps are his strong point for sure, and so yeah, he'll be looking to make it at least a challenging matchup for you there.
Yeah.
So let's take. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna. There could have been a better week technically in week 8, I think it is in Italy, but apart from that, that's probably his best chance. Just purely going off of maps.
Okay, well, let's jump down to Division 3 with their results, how things shaped up. Yeah, Mr. Blue, those promoted players continuing to show some stuff here.
Absolutely, yeah. We can see that in pretty much all the divisions where this is sort of happening. That said, I think that Benica was a relegated player, and he did really well here in this game against in a very tight game against NHF. So he will be very happy with that. it's good for me to see Hugo back in form as well, because he did really well last season and started off not so good this season so far. Um, and what's really grabbed my attention here is Shumi causing a second upset in a row after beating Close last week. Yeah, he's doing good. I was gonna say that for the rankings, but like his scores so far show that he is currently the most stable player in this division, which was definitely not the situation in the Formula G, where he had good results and weaker results going on and off. But yeah, he's doing good so far.
Yeah, Clement, anything from you here on the week 3 results from Division 3?
Yeah, I'm not sure I would call Shumi's wins an upset anymore. But yeah, Patriots struggling there a lot in Belgium, showing first signs of weakness after his unbeaten history in Reddit League so far. I think he probably was the only player apart from you who had competed in a full season of Reddit League and hadn't lost a game yet. But that's over now. Also, a very important win for Fierce against Max there. That was a duel with the potential of being sort of promotion deciding there. Obviously, not like directly, but two people who could fight for promotion going up against each other there. And Freckles showing up great there on a non-world map is always good to see, because he's struggled to do so on national maps previously. But getting an almost perfect score there for him is great, and might put him closer to getting back to Division 1. He'll be frustrated at having missed week one's deadline for sure now. And that might cost him later on in the season. But so far, he's trying his best to make up for that.
Did he miss?
Yeah, Freckles got a yellow
Freckles.
card.
Okay, I thought you were talking about Theos. I was like, what?
No.
But Freckles, yes, yellow card in the first round. Yeah, it's really nice to see Hugo back there with over 24,000, as well as Freckles. Yeah, Max and Patriots showing a little bit of weakness here after their very strong start, but still putting up some respectable numbers. And Benica will also be very happy with his win there. Yeah, so a few of these so-called upsets that has been mentioned kind of really shakes up the table here a bit. I mean, we're only in week 3, so movement is to be expected. Maybe a clear division starting to be shown a bit between maybe 8th and 9th place, but even then, that's not too big, Mr. Blue.
Yeah, so what I already said about Shumi just now, but what also I want to highlight here is that he has already played against numbers 2, 3, and 4. And he has won 2 and lost 1 of these. So yeah, he is up there in the rankings, but then also the opponents that he has played are already in there as well. So that shows that he is in a good position, I guess. I expect Omkar at some point to maybe drop, looking at his total score. And he got the win against Freckles in the yellow carded game. So yeah, I think that he will at some point maybe drop down a bit. But I'm very much looking forward to see how this division develops further.
Yeah, Calamity.
Yeah, Mr. Blue already mentioned that Shumi has played some of the strongest competitors already, but in Division 3, similar to Division 2, maybe with some exceptions, you can't underestimate the people further down as well. Benica, we know, is great on world maps and occasionally does very good on national maps as well. Freckles is a great player. Max is a great player. Hugo was almost promoted from Division 3 last season. Slovak goalie can do great if he has the time to practice. So it's, even though he's already played against some of the best, he's not in a position to lean back and sort of enjoy the rest of his season from his comfortable place up top. But yeah, he's 1 point ahead now, but 6 players, only 1 point behind him, all on 6 points. And Division 3 is the only division out of all of them where no player has won all 3 of his opening games. That kind of reflects on how close the table is overall.
Yeah, very nice. Well, let's see what week 4 has in store for Division 3. Benica, coming off a very good win, is going to have to go up against another tough opponent in Shumio Beloza. Closed and Max is probably my match of the week here. Calamity, you agree?
Yeah, that was also the matchup that I wrote down for myself. Both of them promoted from Division 4 last season, but they didn't actually play against each other because they were in different divisions. Closed promoted automatically, and Max going through the playoffs. But I think Max had, I don't know if it was, I know it was once, but I think it might have even been twice where he had internet issues in certain weeks and lost games because of that. So he might have even had the potential to challenge Patriots for direct promotion otherwise. So that could definitely be a very close game. And also already pretty important for Max in the table if he wants to get promoted, because he's, as you mentioned before, he's sort of in 8th, just below that whole group of people who are on a similar amount of points. So he could really use those 3 points there. But also, yeah, as you said, Shumi against Benica. As I've mentioned before, Benica really good on world maps generally. But Shumi as well, obviously, otherwise he wouldn't have made it to Division 3 through the preseason. So that could be another very close fought matchup. And then we got Omkar against Patriots, who both come off of a struggle in week 3 in Belgium. So they'll both want to sort of fight back and show that they've got what it takes to fight for promotion. And yeah, as Mr. Blue said, Omkar may be a bit lucky so far and not showing the best scores. But again, through the preseason, he did very well there. So we know he can play world maps. So that could be another very interesting game there.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Blue, anything you're looking forward to this week in Division 3?
Yeah, so for me also the Benica against Shomia Boloso game is definitely the standout here. I would say that if he wins it again, Shomi, then he will be doing really well in this division. Max and Closed is definitely also a very interesting matchup, and I think that if Max does not win, he might actually be in the down, like in the last 4 positions in the bottom of the league, and I don't think he wants to be there. So he definitely has to do something here. Other than that, I think that Freckles here can prove himself and disregard this yellow card and go up further in the league.
Okay. Well, let's move on to Division 4A and their results in week 3. And unfortunately, Calamity, we have only in week 3 our first red card. Mabos again missing the deadline, and he is out.
Yeah, he's disqualified now, which to give you a explanation of what exactly that means, because I'm not sure if we've explained it before. That now means he is, well, obviously disqualified for this season, but he's also disqualified for next season. So if he wants to come back, he'll have to do so in season 5. Everyone who is scheduled to play against him in the following weeks will still need to do so. That is a change from last season. You can still get bonus points for a perfect score, and you still need to play just to get that default win. And score difference and everything is going to be treated just as if Mabos had gotten 0 points. So we'll probably see the score differences overall in the table sort of artificially heightened. But yeah, apart from that, I'm not entirely sure. Like logically, I'd think that if there's another yellow card for someone else, then the score difference would be calculated against the lowest score in the division apart from Mabos. I think that is how it should work. But yeah, that would be the other thing. Apart from Mabos' disqualification, we got Nitnarok winning the French derby here against Hedikmi with a great performance there. Nitnarok sort of the player who shows up occasionally, and this was one of those weeks. Wakelok, disappointing for him. He lost again. And you can sort of focus on it in the tables from now on. You'll see that from Division 4A all the way to Division 5B, last place is always someone who has some Reddit League experience. So someone who has taken part in last season, which is quite interesting. And yeah, we've got Barry Fishy Bear winning his sort of duel at the top against Punt Noob with a great performance for him, almost a perfect score there.
Yeah, and anything from you here, Mr. Blue?
Yeah, that win of Barry Fishy Bear seems to be a very good one. Like Pont Nope has surprised me in the beginning of the season, so yes, it's definitely a good win for him. Yeah, here. Then what we can also see is, of course, that it's sad to see Mabos being disqualified, but yeah, there's not much to do about it for us. So yeah, that's his own responsibility, of course. Um, then I think I would call it a surprising win by Bath Jets over LCN, looking at the previous results so far. And then yeah, an important win here for H-Town as well against Wakelog to go back into the middle of the pack.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at the table for Division 4A. And as Mr. Blue pointed out, LCN dropping all the way down to fourth with MD Spaceman with his match against Mabos, and Bearfish Bears win jumping up into first and second. Yeah, and Wakelok still towards the bottom. Nitnarok getting that win in the French Derby, as Calamity mentioned, but still unable to get out of the lower part of the table there. Another thing to mention, now that we have the table in front of us, with Malbo's disqualification, there is no automatic relegation spot for Division 4A. There's still the playoff division, a relegation fight, but neither one of those 8th and 9th players will be relegated automatically. Malbo's kind of takes that shot for both of them in that case. But yeah, anything from you here, Calamity, on how the table is shaping up?
Yeah, you mentioned that about the automatic relegation spot, which makes it quite funny because you could theoretically now get 0 points throughout the whole season, still not be relegated if you win the relegation playoff match.
Yeah,
but yeah, that spot that is now blocked by Mabos will be taken by a newcomer next season. It doesn't go to Division 5. Apart from that, yeah, as you say, you've got MD Spaceman there at the top now, but you can clearly see from the score differences at who are the people that had already had their scheduled match against Mabos there. So they'll probably have, well, not they, but everyone else will have 1 free win still to go. Apart from that, I think it's quite interesting if you look at the aces here in this division, because you've sort of got it's very inconsistent there. We've got MD Spaceman with 4, then we've got Barry Fishy Bear with 7, Punt Noob with 2, LCN with 5, and even down at the bottom, Wakelot with 4 aces, when you've got Bath Jets with 5 points more, but only 1 ace. So I think that's relatively interesting, personally.
Yeah, and I might not have given Wakelok some points.
Nope, the points isn't the thing that's wrong, it's the win-draw-loss ratio that's wrong.
Okay. Yeah, he is 0-3.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll get that fixed. No worries. Doesn't affect anything. So yeah, Mr. Blue, anything from you here that might be interesting?
Yeah, I think that looking at the table right now, I'm expecting the top 2 to actually be like this until the end of the season. I feel that Barry Fishy Bear even underperformed so far in the first few weeks because I have seen him around and he's definitely capable of more. Punt Nope is probably going to be the biggest challenger here. And yeah, for the other players, the pressure is more or less off, even though there's, of course, the playoff that they can try to avoid. But yeah, with the pressure off, we might be able to see some surprises as well coming in later in the season.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at those matchups for week 4 for Division 4A. As you can see, the matches have been adjusted. There's a bye week, so to speak, for LCN, one of those again. LCN, I should just capitalize it so I never forget. LCN there, he does have to play or he will get a yellow card. So if he does nothing, he doesn't want that because then he'll be on the risk of himself being disqualified from the competition. So he'll have to play. Yeah, besides that, Calamity, maybe Yeah, probably Wakelock in the British Derby there, his chance to pick up some points finally.
Yeah, against one of probably the I don't want to say the worst players in the division, but probably not the strongest. So he definitely should slowly start to pick up some points here. Just to add on to something that Mr. Blue mentioned before on the table, he said that the pressure is off for the other players. But as someone who's been in 2 playoff matches now in both of my previous seasons, I can tell you it's not really something you want to be in. Obviously, you take promotion playoff over finishing like 5th or something. But yeah, obviously, down at the bottom of the table, you'd still rather get out of the relegation zone and not have to play that playoff match, even if obviously, yeah, you now got a bit less pressure of having that direct relegation. But yeah, I think MD Spaceman Nitnarok could be a very interesting matchup. Nitnarok generally doing relatively well on world maps, and MD Spaceman currently at the top of the table, so that could be interesting. And yeah, Pont Noob against Headache Me could also be quite a close matchup. I think they're relatively similar in terms of skill level on a world map, especially.
Mr. Blue.
Yeah, so that last game against like a Pont Noob against Headache Me. So I just said in the rankings that Pont Noob will be the main challenger here for the top 2 at the moment. So Headache Me can prove me wrong here. And then I think it would be nice to see if Nitnarok can continue his bettering form against the leader.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to Division 4B, the other side of Division 4, and the results from there. Yeah, Mr. Blue, quite diverse scores here for this group. Yeah.
Yeah, very easy win here for Steel the Snake. I would love to know what happened with GRH77 because that's a very low score. Other than that, I think it's an unlucky season so far for Nakiro. This week, he set the record actually for the Belgian map, 7 minutes for a perfect score in the practice round. But then choking in the actual seat, unfortunately for him. Even though choking, it's still 24k, so I wouldn't call that really choking. But yeah, unlucky for him in that case. Noisel strikes again against you. It's going to be a high-profile battle in the upcoming seasons, I guess.
Yeah, he always seems to show up when he plays me. So, yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, Calamity, anything from you here on these Division 4 results?
Yeah, I can tell you that GRH sort of gave up after round 2. He got, I think it was sort of 260 points in round 1 and then 3,000 in round 2. And then you can see how the time spent in each round sort of dwindles down. He spent 1 minute 30 in round 3, then he spent 1 minute in round 4, and 30 seconds in round 5. So he'd clearly just given up at this point. Don't really know why. Still could have. He definitely wouldn't have seen Edward in sort of the top 3 of the rankings. Like sometimes I can understand if you see that like your opponent has already got like 3 perfect scores and you've lost 7,000 points, you've got no chance anyway. But with only 18,000 points from Edward there, I'm pretty sure that GRH could have still won the game after 2 rounds. Maybe he just didn't really have time. Maybe just like played last minutes and then just it didn't go well and he almost rage quit or something like that. But yeah, he's really not having a good season so far. He's also had a yellow card in last week and he had the worst score of the division in week 1 as well. So he's definitely the favorite for direct relegation, so to speak. Yeah, apart from that, Steal the Snake, great win for him. Very close to a perfect score there as well. Yeah, as Mr. Blue said, Nakiro, a bit unlucky so far this season. Great game from Polyboss, leaves Nakiro with only 1 point. And Deepfort maybe getting a bit lucky. Not one of his best performances, but he still comes away with a win there.
Yeah, I would have liked him to do that in week 1 when I played him, but So, yeah. Let's take a look at the table then for Division 4B. I dropped down a few spots with that loss. Polybus, Noisel, and Deep Thought moving up, as well as a few shifts down with Edward picking up some points there for him. So again, a bit of separation definitely at the top with Steal the Snake and Deep Thought, Mr. Blue.
Yes, absolutely. So still, this Nick is probably the best player in this division. I think a lot will need to happen. Will he not stay where he is? But it's going to be a really tight race for second place between the players 2nd to 8th, I would say, in this division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be really hard to call anything out besides that maybe top 1 or 2 places. Calamity?
Yeah, Steel the Snake mentioned on Reddit that he struggles more with bigger countries than in smaller countries, which means this is a good season for him because we don't really have a lot of those. We've got his home country, Italy, later on, which I would probably have assumed as one of the bigger countries, but obviously with it being his home country, he'll probably not struggle there. And then we've got Bolivia and Kenya as well, which both aren't really that big. Bolivia is slightly bigger, but it only has like very small amount of coverage. So probably the best season for him to get promoted directly. And yeah, Deep Thought probably the favorite to at least go into the playoffs, promotion playoffs. And then it'll be a tough fight for 3rd place. Because at that point, you're not that far off. You're pretty much just 2 very good performances in the playoffs off from getting promoted anyway. So maybe you've got a better chance there rather than having to beat Deep Thought or the other players who will go into the promotion playoff from Division 4A over a whole season.
Yeah, I assume you're talking about me. But I think getting to those playoffs is my best bet. I'm trying to take a spot from either Deep Thought or Steal This Nick. Is going to be a challenge for any of the other competitors in 4B in the coming weeks. But yeah, as we look at these matchups for week 4, we've got probably might even be the match of the season here already. Steal This Nick up against Deep Thought, those top 2 positions, and probably the 2 favorites. So that could end up having deep impacts come the end of the season. Mr. Blue.
Yeah, indeed, number 1 against number 2. Going to be very interesting to see that. But as I said earlier, I do think that number 1 will win and will widen the gap here. Then Nakiro against Pashtetli will be most likely the matchup where Nakiro will book a win and start climbing up the rankings. And then Noisel against Polybos. I think that's going to be a nice matchup as well. And a good opportunity for Zotomo to overtake his rival or his rival's opponent.
Yeah, Calamity.
Yeah, this is definitely a match that you need to win. No pressure.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Noisel and Polybos playing against each other and Steal the Snake and Deep Thought as well, this is the 1 week where you can actually make up some ground to challenge for the playoff spaces there. In the match between Steal the Snake and Deep Thought, I think whoever wins that match pretty much guarantees himself a spot in the promotion playoffs at least. So yeah, that's probably going to be the more interesting matches. As Mr. Blue said, Nakiro should be the favorite against Pashtetli, and I think Pork Steaks should be the favorite against Edward. Pork Steaks usually relatively good on world maps as well.
Yeah, definitely with Division 4 and 5, world maps are going to be more in the wheelhouse of more players. So the scores in the matches will be a lot tighter, I think, than maybe on a country map like Belgium, where we saw quite a big divide between the highest score and the lowest score. Taking a look at Division 5A now and their results from Belgium. Another good week from that one little girl and another disappointment from NNZ, Calamity.
Yeah, though to be fair to NNZ, this week's performance was actually decent for him. I think this was now the first time in his Reddit League career that he wasn't in the bottom 3 scorers in any given week. And he just got unlucky there that he just missed out on the draw there, and also wasn't too far away from the bonus point. So, and really just unfortunate for him that he still ends up on 0 points after this week. But yeah, if he can keep sort of this upswing going, he might pick up points sooner or later. Yeah, apart from that, very good game from Hexalt. Came actually the closest, apart from the people who obviously got the perfect score, to the perfect score, with only 3 points missing for him there, just one probably slight pinpointing mistake. Apart from that, pretty good week for Laban, Greb, and Diesel, who unfortunately had to play against each other. I think that was, they had the second and third best score. Especially rough for Laban Greb, who's kind of further down on the table, and he would have really wanted those points from a good performance like that. And yeah, apart from that, as you said, One Weird Girl, another very good performance, really surprising me this season so far, doing a great job. And yeah, good win for Zenits as well against Jake Lyons.
Yeah, Mr. Blue.
Yeah, I think Caroline turns out to be not that much of a weird girl. She's rocking the division so far, so well done to her. Unlucky for Anna and Zed, indeed, as you said. He seems to be a big fan of the league, and it would be sad to see him fall out of the competition next season. High quality match between Laban, Greb, and Diesel. Then the second female win of the week, another Dutchie. I'm proud of Emily here. And then the best performance of the season, of the division, sorry, by Hexalt, just missing out on the bonus point. So great way for him to win his first match.
Yeah, very well indeed. Let's look at that table, and that One More Girl keeps her top spot. Diesel and Zenit's also climbing up, as Calamity mentioned. Laban Greb looking for some points there, but that only gets the draw and doesn't move him up too much in the table. What's really interesting here, Calamity, is that One More Girl at the top, but no aces yet.
Yeah, that's the thing that really stands out there. So she's doing it with consistency, and you do generally find that, especially in a division like Division 5, lower down, you can get by without making many aces as long as you're consistent in all the rounds, because usually your opponents will have a bad round here and there that costs them more points than just missing out on the pinpointing would do. But especially if she gets promoted and then ends up playing in higher divisions, she will really have to improve on that aspect going forward. But yeah, apart from that, I think it's quite interesting to look at how there's 1 point between first and second, 1 point between second and third, and so forth until down to sixth place. Yeah, apart from that, you should probably color in the bottom spots here, because currently they're just black in the numbers. But you can get, as Mr. Blue hinted at before, you can get relegated from Reddit League entirely by finishing on the bottom of Division 5, and you'll then have to re-qualify for it next season, which generally doesn't look that likely. As we've experienced in previous seasons, generally the newcomers that come in do pretty well. So if you get relegated from the lowest division, you'd have to really put on a stellar preseason to get into the tournament again. Obviously, it depends a bit on how many people apply for next season, but chances are that it'll be quite a few. So you really don't want to fall out of the tournament if you have the chance to avoid it.
Yeah, I do need to do some work on these lower division tables. They're still kind of a work in progress. Mr. Blue, anything from you here on the Division 5A table?
Yeah, I think that One Weird Girl is, as you said, doing very well. Would be nice to see if she can keep up with this after the sort of disappointing season that she had last season. Let's say it like that. It was last year as well.
It was last year, yeah.
Anyway, yeah. As Talon Pala was hyping up the French players last week, I definitely have to hype up the Dutch players here. So Zenit, well done to you. Keep up. And I'm afraid Anna and Zed will have a tough challenge ahead of him. But please prove me wrong, because I want to keep you in the division as well.
Yeah, also things not looking too good for Diffs, so that's a bit unfortunate. He's a pretty decent player, so I'd like to see him do a little bit better in the coming weeks. So let's take a look at those matchups for Division 5A. Doesn't get any better for that one world girl. She'll have to prove herself again against an opponent with quite a few aces. Oh, 4 aces, not a bad number for him there. But yeah, anything that stands out for you, Calamity?
The matchup I'm personally looking at here, well, there's two actually, both relatively close together in the table. There's obviously Diesel against Jake Lyons, who are first and fourth right now, but also Hexal against Zenitz, third and fifth. Those are probably the more interesting matchups this week. As you mentioned that one weird goal against Laban Greb. Laban with a pretty good game last week. Unfortunate there with the draw. So he'll surely like to back that performance up and come home with a win here to get himself out of that lower half of the table. And yeah, apart from that, we've got some duels further towards the bottom of the table in Marcus Fenn against Diffs and TDYS against NNZ. So both of those will be important for the competitors themselves to sort of secure their position in sort of the mid-table. Probably neither of them is going to play a big role in the promotion battle, but you kind of still want to secure yourself from getting relegated.
Indeed. Mr. Blue, anything look promising from you here?
Yeah, more or less the same thing as what Calamity just said, actually. Like Laban Greb, yeah, like with his last performance, he must have gained some confidence, and yeah, then it's a good way to prove that against the leader of the league. So that will be very interesting to see. And then the other two games, Lions against Diesel, as well as Hexel against Zenit. Yeah, seem to be the more interesting games here when it comes to the top of the table, at least. Yeah.
Indeed. Well, let's move on to the last and second part of Division 5, Division 5B, and their results in week 3. And yeah, Papagatto actually getting some points finally from him there, Mr. Blue.
Yeah, good to see Papagatto picks up his first win, despite a weaker score, but still well done to him. Also great wins by Geoguessr and Faraban, who both seem to be very good players actually. Then what else? Yeah, no, I think that they were definitely the ones that most players did actually really well this season. Sorry, in this seed. So that is good to see as well.
Yeah, Calamity, and the troubles continue for Steven here.
Yeah, another loss for him. He just, I mean, what I think of Steven is that he's generally relatively consistent with getting in that general region of somewhere between 15 and 20,000 points. But it seems like the competition for him has gotten stronger this year. Either that or he's just had a bit sort of unlucky pairings so far. Yeah, apart from that, Katsach unlucky with the second best score in the division to only get 1 point for that because he had to play against Faraban. Yeah, as Mr. Blue mentioned, Geoguessr as well, great score for him. So the two French players are looking pretty good in the division so far. Faraban, especially with his 0 points in week 1 due to internet issues, will try to make up for that as soon as possible and fight for the promotion playoffs at least. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see both of them in the top 3 at the end of the season.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. For Division 5, we've got 2 players who almost get a perfect score in Belgium. So definitely, even in Division 5, very, very strong competition here, and that time limit is enough for them to put up some very good numbers. So let's jump over to their table then and see how things are shaping up after 3 weeks. Papagatto, with the win, still only moves up into 9th place from being dead last. Yeah, Farabrand still kind of stuck in the middle of the pack. But yeah, other than that, not a whole lot of change. Danny Blonde's moving up into 3rd, probably the biggest noticeable shift after week 3. But yeah, Mr. Blue, anything noteworthy from the table here?
Yeah, I think that Geoguessr, I'm not sure if he is able to to keep the number one spot until the end. That will be a very tough battle for him. I do see Card Charts, Danny Blons, but also Faraban as the 3 players who might kick him out in the end. So hopefully not for him, but the top 3 will be probably be those 3 players. And as per Anna and Zed in the previous division, it seems to be a very tough season for Steven here. And yeah, same for him basically. Like, watch out, because this might be the end of the whole Reddit League. So
Yeah, Calamity, the aces look a little bit nicer in this league. At least the people with the zeros are at the bottom. So
yeah, it looks a bit more consistent here. We still have high aces and low aces sort of mixed together here. A lot of that will alleviate itself in the following weeks. Bubba down there in 8th place with the most aces of the division looks a bit strange. But yeah, as I've mentioned previously, that's just a good indicator of whether you make big or small mistakes, basically. Yeah, apart from that, I think we're probably looking at the top 5 here. I wouldn't be surprised if they stay the top 5. Shoger, Karzaj, Danny Bones, Jack Hertzberg, and Faraban. Just from what I've seen so far of them, they seem to be the favorites. But we'll see what happens once they play more amongst themselves. And yeah, we'll see if there is one challenger down from the bottom who can fight amongst them.
yeah, if anybody, maybe a Bubba there, his score differential kind of shows you how close his weeks have been. He's been a bit unlucky with 2 losses, but all the way down there in 8th place, but only down 283 points against his opponents. So he's had very close losses, and again, those aces definitely point towards him doing quite well, but maybe just getting a bit unlucky in the first 3 weeks. So if anybody can maybe mount a challenge here, it's probably him, I would say. But let's take a look at the features, the fixtures for them in week 4. Yeah, probably something interesting here. Doesn't get any easier for Steven, Mr. Blue.
absolutely not. No, Faraban is definitely a player to watch out for. So I can completely agree with that. I'm expecting actually all the top half players to beat the bottom half players and widen the gap further. The one standing out for me here, where Danny Blons can show what he is capable of and beat the leader of the division.
Indeed, and Calamity.
Yeah, definitely Joguer, Danny Blons, first against third, the match to watch out for. But also you mentioned Bubba in the table before as the one who might be able to challenge the top players. And this is probably the best week to start doing that against Katzach.
Yeah, definitely. So we have high hopes and definitely enjoying learning about these new players in Division 5. Okay, folks, well, we've got one last thing to take care of, and that is the map for week 4, which I actually changed because we did other videos. So let me switch that over. Here we go. Week 4, it is a AI-made world map, and I didn't change the author, so I'll have to fix that. The average score is only 10,000, which is actually quite low for a world map. Over 10,000 locations, so no practicing here, Tall. Been played over 20,000 times and just over 500 likes. Yeah, so obviously with the AI generated map, it is not hand picked. Bigger countries have more coverage. So yeah, Calamity, any thoughts on this map here?
Yeah, AI made world map, this one made by Mr. American Mike. They have a tendency to lean on the more difficult side in general compared to other world maps. I'd say not quite as difficult as Week 2's Dams of the World, actually, as the locations here aren't inherently remote as you would have it with the dams. But don't be surprised if you end up in the woods or the desert somewhere in the middle of nowhere. This is the first map of the season that you really can't practice for specifically. As I've said before, with Dams of the World, you still had some tendencies of certain countries being more likely to have dams or, dams generally being located in certain areas of those countries. But with the AI made world map here, with well over 10,000 locations, they're just everywhere pretty much. And even if you practice quite a bit, the chances that you do get any duplicate locations are very low. And yeah, even if you do by sheer chance get one, good luck trying to remember where it was. But yeah, this is a map that'll definitely benefit the best all-round players, I would say.
Yeah. Mr. Blue.
Yeah, indeed, it's a very tough map. I would say, like, yeah, there are some urban locations definitely, but there are also a lot of locations where you will be just in the middle of nowhere, and it will be very hard to find that round. And if you go then the wrong way, then well, that's a problem. If you go the right way, then yeah, you might still be able to find it, of course. But yeah, if you go once the wrong way, then it will be very hard to recover from that, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. This is the kind of map where if I do any practicing, it's more of just to warm up my GeoGuessr brain, so to speak, than actually to learn anything in particular. Pretty much, if you've got good GeoGuessr skills coming into the week, you're going to do well. A couple more days isn't probably going to make a whole lot of difference. So definitely an interesting week, and a week that we should expect a lot of players to put up some really good scores and to show us. And they might have a chance to get a few points and move up from the bottom of those tables. A lot of players don't play anything but world maps on their own, and Reddit League does challenge you with those smaller locations. So most players are maybe more well-versed in this than in a more country-specific map. So yeah, it should definitely prove to be interesting indeed. Well, thank you all for watching again. Yeah, with 5 divisions, these shows are proving to be a little bit longer than they were last season, with more work, but I hope you all enjoyed us going through them all. I know we have enjoyed spending the last hour or so chatting about it, and I'm sure the conversation will continue the minute I hit stop record. Yeah, so we'll see you all next time. Take care.
Bye.